But there's one more thing that I need to tell you about in this video, and that's decimals. Do you remember in the video about fractions and decimals that you can convert any fraction into its decimal value? Sometimes it was kind of tricky converting to a decimal if we had to divide the top number by the bottom number. But other times, like when we had base 10 fractions, it was easy because decimal number places are made for counting base 10 fractions, like tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Well, guess what? Percents are base 10 fractions. They're hundredths because their bottom number is always 100. That means it's really easy to rewrite a percentage as a decimal number. You can do it the same way as we did in the base 10 fractions video. For example, we know that 15% is just 15 over 100, right? That's its fraction form. But it also has the decimal form 0.15 because this is the hundredths place, and 0.15 means 15 hundredths. So we can rewrite 15% as a fraction, 15 over 100, or as a decimal, 0.15. And now that you know why we can easily convert a percentage to a decimal, let me show you a really simple trick for doing it. First, you start with the number in percent form, like this, 35%. Next, you imagine where the decimal point should be in the number 35. It's not shown, but if it was, it would be right here next to the ones place. Now remember, 35 and 35.0 are the same value. Now that you know where the decimal point is, just move it 2 number places to the left, away from the percent symbol, and draw it in right there. Last of all, once you've moved the decimal point, you erase the percent sign because you don't have a percent anymore. Moving the decimal point 2 places to the left converted it into the decimal value of that percent. Let's try converting a few more percents into their decimal values so you can get the hang of it. For 62%, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left and get 0.62. Remember, we can put an extra 0 in front of the decimal point to be a placeholder and to make the decimal point easier to notice. For 75%, we move the decimal point and get 0.75. For 99%, we move the decimal point to get 0.99. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, but what about 4%? You might wonder how we can move the decimal point 2 places over when our number only has 1 digit. But all we need to do is use a 0 as a placeholder in the number place that's missing. Then, when we move the decimal point 2 places over, we end up with a decimal value of 0.04. Now that makes sense because 4 is in the hundredths place, and 4% is 4 over 100. And in the same way, 1% would just be 0.01. Again, we need that extra 0 placeholder. Here's a few more interesting examples. 0% would just be 0.00. And if we have 100% and we move the decimal point 2 places to the left, we end up with 1.00. But 1.00 is the same value as 1. And that's why 100% represents 1 whole. And if we have 142%, we move the decimal point to get 1.42. That's a value greater than 1, which is what we would expect, because 142% is really an improper fraction, 142 over 100. Its value should be greater than 1. All right, so now you know that a percent is a special fraction that always has 100 as the bottom number. And you know that you can rewrite percents in either their fraction form or their decimal form. 25% is 25 over 100, or 0.25. But keep in mind that you could go the other way too. If someone gives you a fraction with 100 as the bottom number, you can rewrite it in percent form. If you get 12 over 100, you can say that's 12%. And if you get 80 over 100, you can say that's 80%. Or if you get the decimal 0.10, you can say that's 10%. And if you get the decimal 0.38, you can say that's 38%. So that's the key to percentages. They're another way to write fractions and decimals, but there's a lot more to learn about how they're used in math, and we'll learn more about that in the next few videos. But for now, you should be sure that you really understand the basics of percentages by doing the exercises for this section. Thanks for watching Mathantics, and I'll see you next time. Learn more at mathantics.com.